Moving to a new apartment in the sunny city of Austin, Texas, felt like the start of a wonderful adventure. I'm Ben, and I'm just an ordinary guy with a pretty standard life. When my wife, Sarah, and I found this charming red brick building with its cozy tree-lined street, we were thrilled. The rent was reasonable for the area, and the landlord, Mr. Henderson, seemed like a pleasant enough older man. But looking back now, I have to wonder, when exactly did this cozy situation turn into something I couldn't quite wrap my head around? The day we moved in, the sun was blazing. We were both sweaty, tired, and surrounded by a fortress of cardboard boxes. Mr. Henderson, a cheerful retiree in his late 60s who always wore colorful plaid shirts and a slightly too frequent smile, popped over immediately. "Need a hand with that big sofa?" he offered, nodding at the bulky piece of furniture we were struggling with. Sarah beamed at him. "Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Henderson." I was grateful too, initially. It was nice to have a helping hand. But then I noticed something. As we moved the sofa, Mr. Henderson barely lifted a finger. He spent the entire time directing Sarah, cracking weak jokes, and practically standing in her shadow. I ended up doing the heavy lifting while he just, well, oversaw things. Is this what helping looks like? I thought. A few days later, the real pattern began to emerge. Mr. Henderson, we quickly learned, was retired. And apparently, his main hobby was us. Or more accurately, Sarah. He seemed to have an uncanny sense of timing. Just as I would settle down after a long day of work, maybe cracking open a beer to relax, a knock would sound at the door. "Oh, hi Sarah. I was just baking some cookies and thought you two might like some." Or, "I picked some extra tomatoes from my garden and wanted to share." Now, you can't be rude to a nice older man bringing you free food, can you? So, we'd invite him in. And by we, I mean Sarah would eagerly usher him inside, while I'd silently sigh, knowing my peaceful evening was over before it even began. The real eye-opener, though, was one Saturday. We were in the middle of unpacking books in the living room. I was waist-deep in dust jackets, feeling dusty and ready for a break. Suddenly, without even a knock, the front door swung wide open. There stood Mr. Henderson, holding a toolkit and a look of triumphant purpose. "Just thought I'd check your fire alarms. Wouldn't want you two unprotected." He bustled inside like he owned the place. Well, technically he did, but still. No knock. No warning. Before I could blink, he had his ladder set up right in the middle of our half-organized living room. Sarah, instead of being annoyed like I was, actually giggled. "Thanks, Mr. Henderson. You're so thoughtful." Seriously, thoughtful is the word. I wanted to ask if this was a new definition of privacy I wasn't aware of. He spent the next 2 hours checking alarms and chatting. And by chatting, I mean cornering Sarah in the kitchen, telling her long, winding stories about his glory days in some distant job, while I was left to awkwardly arrange our novels. Every time I tried to suggest that maybe we had things under control, Sarah would give me a look, and Mr. Henderson would just keep right on talking, completely oblivious. Or maybe not oblivious. It got worse. One evening, after a truly exhausting week at work, all I wanted was quiet. I was lying on the sofa, eyes half closed, when I heard the now familiar rumble of Mr. Henderson's voice coming from the kitchen. I walked in, expecting to find him dropping something off. Nope. There he was, sitting comfortably at our kitchen table, sipping coffee from our mug. He'd apparently brought his own mug, which, strangely enough, was one he had just found somewhere, and Sarah was laughing heartily at some story he was telling. My wife looked at me, her eyes bright. "Ben, Mr. Henderson was just telling me about the time he wrestled an alligator in Florida." "An alligator? Really? Does this man have an answer for everything?" I managed a strained smile. I sat down and picked at a cookie. Mr. Henderson leaned across the table. "You know, Sarah," he said, touching her arm, "just a light touch, but enough to make me tense up, you remind me so much of my granddaughter. Same spirit, same beautiful laugh." I stared at his hand on her arm. His hand on her arm. Is that normal? Sarah didn't seem to notice. She just beamed and said, "Oh, Mr. Henderson, that's so sweet." I had to bite my tongue so hard I almost bled. I spent the rest of the evening listening to his endless stories, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Why does my wife think this is charming? Why can't she see that this is weird? The final straw for me came a week later. I got home early from work, feeling a little under the weather, wanting nothing more than to curl up in bed with a hot soup. As I unlocked our door, I heard voices again. They were coming from our tiny back patio, not the living room this time. I walked over to the patio door and peered outside. There was Mr. Henderson, with a watering can in his hand, looking perfectly at ease, showing Sarah something in her small potted garden. Sarah was looking intently at him, nodding, her face glowing. "See, Sarah," he was saying in that slow, booming voice, "you have to prune them right here at the node. That's how you get the biggest blooms." She touched a leaf. "Oh, I see. Thank you for showing me. I would have had no idea." It wasn't that he was helping her with the plants. It was the way they were standing, too close. The way she was hanging on his every word, like he was some kind of gardening god. The way he was looking at her, with this strange, protective, overly familiar expression. My heart clenched. What is happening here? When did our apartment become his clubhouse? When did my wife become his best friend? That night, after Mr. Henderson finally left, I couldn't take it anymore. "Sarah," I began, my voice tighter than I intended, "we need to talk about Mr. Henderson." She looked at me, perfectly casual, drying a dish. "Oh, what about him? He's such a sweet old man, isn't he? He's been so lonely since his wife passed." My stomach did a little flip. "Lonely? I'm sure he is, Sarah, but it feels like he's always here. In our space. He comes over without knocking. He talks to you about things like alligators, and gardening, and God knows what else. He makes coffee for himself." Sarah laughed. "Ben, you're being ridiculous. He's just being friendly. And the alligator story was hilarious. He's just trying to be a good neighbor. We should be grateful to have someone so caring nearby." Ridiculous? Caring? I wanted to ask her if caring also included knowing exactly when she was home alone. Or, friendly, meant coming into our house uninvited. I wanted to scream, but I just looked at her. "Sarah," I said, a wave of real bone-deep tiredness washing over me, "I don't think I can do this. I feel like I'm living with two roommates, and one of them owns the building and is way too interested in you." She just sighed and shook her head, as if I was the difficult one. I looked around our cozy apartment, the one that had felt so full of promise just weeks ago. Is this really my life now? Is this my marriage? Are we supposed to just let this continue? I looked at the window, half expecting to see Mr. Henderson's face peeking through the glass, checking on his plants, and his daughter. A chill ran down my spine. How do I solve this without starting an all-out war with our landlord? And how do I make my own wife see what's happening right in front of her face? I honestly didn't have a clue. So, that is my current situation. Am I being a jealous husband, or is this landlord crossing a major line? I really need to hear from you guys. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts on this predicament. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about how this unfolds, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.